Uncle Owen was a key to Star Wars. Wait, hear me out. Uncle Owen was more than a character. Ask yourself, what does he represent? Why is he overlooked by Lucasfilm's anti-story group? I'll build a case for the crispy curmudgeon's archetype and purpose next. Welcome to Galactic Initiative. I'm your host, Jeff. Modern Lucasfilm misinterprets, and dismisses key ingredients for Star Wars' original universal appeal on a consistent basis. Yes, the Uncle Owen problem began prior to Disney's involvement, but it worsened by a factor of 10 after George Lucas sold his studio to
white slavers that take these things and okay, but
I've encountered different explanations for the problem from commentators on Rumble and YouTube. I'll share 4 as the prologue to my argument. Robert Meyer Burnett of the Burnett Works suggests, since the prequels, Star Wars has only produced stories about Star Wars. From his perspective, its owners are risk-averse and its writers lack imagination. Thus, its nature, once creative and adventurous, has grown insular and repetitive over time. He often mentions the damage to Star Wars lore caused by incestuous storytelling after the original trilogy. Chris Gore of Film Threat says Disney misunderstands its acquisitions. He perceives the corporation ruining boy brands like Star Wars and Marvel by turning them into girl brands because its leaders focus on intersectionality, not customers. As a result, he asserts Star Wars aspirational storytelling is gone. Jedi, Sith, and princesses replaced farm boys, truck drivers, and robots. In short, exceptionalism supplanted relatability. Nerdword laments the loss of wonder, authenticity, and timelessness. She observes, quote, "The original story of Star Wars is about someone ordinary becoming someone extraordinary," unquote. Though she acknowledges his expert skills, she could relate to The Mandalorian's first season with Din Djarin as an everyman undertaking the hero's journey. At present, she views Star Wars conflict between the elites of light and dark as unsatisfying and never-ending. Thor Skywalker questions Lucasfilm's reliance on trappings in lieu of storytelling. For example, people associate lightsaber duels with Star Wars, but unless they are rare and decisive, writers should avoid such confrontations. The studio misemploys and exhausts core elements, like lightsabers, just to attract an audience. Star Wars becomes cotton candy, enticement without substance. Writers who don't know or care to know Star Wars base their work on superficial characteristics. I agree with parts of all 4 explanations. Disney's version of Star Wars is incestuous, intersectional, elitist, veneered, inconsequential, and monotonous. I respect the host's commentaries. However, I'll go a step further for my argument. I think Nerdword came closest to identifying the Uncle Owen problem when she spoke about the hero's journey and lack of relatable characters. Joseph Campbell's acclaimed book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, outlines the monomyth, a template for adventure demonstrated by all cultures over millennia. In other words, the monomyth or hero's journey is a distillation of world history, religion, and literature into recurring characters, plots, and themes. The prefix mono means one, and the word myth means traditional story. One traditional story. Campbell distinguished 3 acts with a total of 17 stages, as shown in this circular diagram. Break the circle at call to adventure, and flatten it to reveal a standard plot diagram. Exposition, conflict, rising action, falling action, and resolution. Compared to a 3-act play, Campbell chose different labels but followed the same structure. In script writing, setup, confrontation, and resolution are comparable to, in the hero's journey, departure, initiation, and return. Beginning with the call to adventure or inciting action, and ending with the freedom to live or resolution, I assume all literate adults understand the basics of storytelling. The original trilogy is more or less Campbell's monomyth, while the prequel trilogy is a Greek or Shakespearean tragedy. I've already pinpointed Uncle Owen as the basis of my video, so, to no one's surprise, I'll delve into the first act of episode 4 to set the stage, pun intended, for later criticism. The Devastator's capture of the Tantive 4 was Star Wars inciting action. Princess Leia hid the Death Star plans inside R2-D2 to prevent the Empire, specifically Darth Vader, from reacquiring them. The opening combat involving a Star Destroyer, stormtroopers, blasters, and Darth Vader established a special or supernatural realm above, literally above, the ordinary world of Tatooine. Let's revisit the monomyth diagram. The distinction of special from ordinary is important. Lucas wanted a sharp contrast between the Galactic Civil War and the Lars moisture farm. In deleted scenes, Luke glimpsed the space battle with his electro-binoculars, and, like the audience, wondered about it. When C-3PO and R2-D2 landed on Tatooine, the setting abruptly shifted from special to ordinary. In the early stages of any dramatic work, key characters are introduced. Princess Leia and Darth Vader belonged to the special, unknown realm. Luke, Owen, and Beru belonged to the ordinary or known realm. Stage 1, the call to adventure, was remarkably straightforward. Luke watched a holographic message, a call, from a beautiful woman. The unknown world delivered an appeal to pull Luke from his mundane existence. Stage 2, refusal of the call, was longer because it lingered amid stages 3 and 4, supernatural aid and crossing the first threshold. Luke wanted the adventure prefigured by the holographic message, but his obligation to Uncle Owen caused him to refuse it. In Episode 4, Uncle Owen not only inhabited but represented the known world. Without his character, the sharp contrast between space battle and moisture farm would have been lost. In Uncle Owen, people recognized their childhood authority figures. Do your chores. Do your part for the family. You can waste time with your friends later. Owen had Luke's best interests at heart, but as a country farmer, a man who spent most of his time alone with his thoughts, he wasn't sensitive or expressive. Plus, he couldn't share the truth about postponing Luke's departure, i.e. Anakin's fall to the dark side, a terrible secret he'd sworn to keep. Through Owen's brief conversations with Beru, we see him as protector and provider.
I'll make it up to him next. I promise.
Luke's just not a farmer, Owen. He has too much of his father in him.
That's what I'm afraid.
In storytelling, an archetype is a character, image, or pattern that recurs frequently enough to achieve universal recognition. Owen's archetype is Guardian of the First Threshold. He was the barrier between Luke and the call to adventure. To cross the first threshold, ironically, Luke served Owen's wishes by taking the family land speeder to recover R2-D2 and C-3PO. Granted, Luke lied by omission twice. He didn't inform Owen of the droid's escape and told Beru he needed an early start, implying conscientiousness, not negligence. Luke refused the call to adventure a second time despite Ben Kenobi's supernatural aid during his trip to the Junlan Wastes, the first threshold. Why? Again, Uncle Owen, his cantankerous guardian. Owen's role isn't sexy, but it's so very necessary. As the weight and embodiment of the ordinary world, adventures benefit from at least one Uncle Owen. When Luke and Ben leave for Anchorhead, Episode 4 is 37 minutes old. Consider recent D+ Star Wars productions, The Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi, Ahsoka, and The Acolyte. Do many episodes feel rushed in comparison with The Mandalorian, Andor, and the original trilogy? Yes, because they lack essential components of the hero's journey, the call to adventure, and Uncle Owen. Heroes must be relatable. To be relatable, they must struggle and learn on their journeys. If every character is special, then no character is special. If a character is flawless from the start, then no one can empathize with them. Yes, I'm looking at you, Rey. In the monomyth and the 3-act construct, Act 1, departure, or setup, relies on the ordinary. So, when the call to adventure comes and the first threshold is crossed, the audience witnesses a transformation. The plot ascends from exposition to conflict and rising action. Tension and anticipation build. If it neglects setup, a production won't deliver a satisfying payoff or climax. Lucasfilm rarely takes time for Act 1 anymore. In this regard, Andor and The Mandalorian did well while Kenobi, Ahsoka, and The Acolyte failed miserably. Kenobi pretended Obi-Wan was a stupid, broken man. He had lost his wit and wisdom along with his powers. The writer Joby Harold tried to convince viewers of Obi-Wan's ordinariness, but when he needed the Force, he used the Force. The premise was ridiculous because Obi-Wan belonged to the supernatural realm long before the series. Senator Bail Organa, Jedi, Princess Leia, Darth Vader. Harold treated extraordinariness as, yeah, this is Star Wars, all these things are normal. No, for the audience's sake, they must be treated with reverence. Less is more. Inquisitors on Tatooine, lightsabers in every episode. By taking this approach, Harold sacrificed Star Wars' sense of wonder. The Kenobi novel, published in 2013, skillfully handled the same scenario. It was a superior story because it took its time, established the contrast between realms, gradually increased conflicts, germanely and sparingly interspersed action scenes, and limited Obi-Wan's supernatural powers without sacrificing his personality. It featured a number of Uncle Owens to anchor the story. The D+ series payoff was predictable. No emotional investment. Uncle Owen behaved like a Jedi Master, and Obi-Wan behaved like a farmer in several scenes. Perhaps I should be thankful Kenobi attempted a poor facsimile of the hero's journey. The Ahsoka series offered no such pretense. Ahsoka dominated opponents from the beginning. No room for meaningful improvement. She spacewalked, dueled, and whale-talked her way across the galaxy. Her near-death experience with Anakin was, in the end, a decision she made to be awesomer than before. Baylan knocked her off a cliff because she pushed around his apprentice. But if she hadn't burned her hand on Morgan's ball, she would have beaten him too. Every character was elite. Baylan, Ezra, Hera, Huyang, Jason, Marok, Morgan, Sabine, Shin. How grounded was the show when its least extraordinary personality was a 25,000-year-old droid that served the Jedi Order from its inception? Just a ragtag group of relatable adventurers, eh? Again, no universal POV for viewers. Where was aspiration? Ahsoka evidenced Robert Meyer Burnett's complaint: Star Wars telling Star Wars stories, not Star Wars telling across-the-board stories. No Uncle Owens. The Acolyte continues the trend as it follows a group of Jedi Masters, Knights, and Padawans who encounter witches and Sith Masters. Ostensibly, Osha is the POV character, and for 5 minutes, the series displayed her mundane job, Mechnik. However, we quickly learned she was a Padawan in the Jedi Order and a Force-created being. Her sister is a Sith Acolyte. Her mother's led a coven of Force users. Osha isn't Luke. She isn't a newbie taking or refusing an initial call to adventure. She already belongs to the extraordinary realm, and involuntarily resumes her hero's journey at Stage 6, the Road of Trials. The Acolyte is grandiose in design. It hopes to wow viewers with kung fu and lightsaber fights, and it seldom employs establishing scenes and character development. Mystery is the writer's excuse for neglecting basic elements of storytelling. Thus, viewers don't care about Osha and her companions. No bond is forged. No rooting interest is inaugurated by taking time to acquaint audiences with personages. Consider what A New Hope accomplished from Moisture Farm to Death Star. Screen time equal to 1.5 episodes of The Acolyte. Luke, Ben, and Han were introduced and developed, so when the Millennium Falcon was hauled into the massive space station, viewers were genuinely concerned for them. A mission was accepted. Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru came and went with the first threshold. The Force was explained and demonstrated. The Cantina, Chewbacca, Sand Troopers, Greedo, the Imperial Spy, the Millennium Falcon. Conversations that referenced Vaporators, Harvests, Academies, land speeder prices, and hyperspace coordinates conveyed a sense of realism, relatability, and purpose. Choose any 1.5 episode segment of The Acolyte. How does it compare to A New Hope for character development, world building, and plot? Today's writers don't advance characters while exploring workaday Star Wars and generating wonder through the galaxy's trove of planets, creatures, droids, and vehicles. Simply using a spaceport or temple or cantina with 5 different species of aliens as a backdrop isn't enough to ground the story. It's just window dressing. I could go on by breaking down the sequels and other D+ series for ignoring or butchering the hero's journey. But I believe you take my meaning. There's more than one way to tell a good story. Tony Gilroy and Jon Favreau created series with relatable characters from humble beginnings. Their fresh takes on the monomyth were engaging without being derivative. Lucasfilm apparently learned nothing from them. Kathleen Kennedy, Dave Filoni, Joby Harold, Deborah Chow, Leslie Headland, and several others have been called out for the studio's failures. They should study Campbell, Lucas, Kurosawa, sci-fi serials, classic westerns, and, of course, Star Wars films, to understand the storytelling that leads to universal acclaim. Uncle Owen represented Campbell's known realm. Today, he's overlooked because writers don't comprehend the importance of his role. The archetype, the Uncle Owen archetype, grounds a story and enhances the hero's relatability by, intentionally or unintentionally, setting obstacles in the early stages and obstructing the call to adventure when it comes. Uncle Owen was a key to Star Wars' success.
Galactic Initiative is not authorized or endorsed by Lucasfilm Limited. The name Star Wars and all related materials are registered trademarks of Lucasfilm Limited, a subsidiary of the Walt Disney Company, all rights reserved. Galactic Initiative is a registered trademark, and other product and company names are trademarks of their respective holders. Use does not imply affiliation or endorsement.